I need to be honest with you from the start. From what I first learned about the Proverbs 31 woman, I hated her. History portrayed her as a virtuous flower and upheld her as a glowing example of biblical womanhood. I saw her as a standard. I'm not wealthy, I don't know how to weave fabric, and I'm not a stay-at-home mom. Some days I'm so busy, the best I can do for dinner is the drive-thru. And honestly, sometimes it's hard to honor my husband. When you add that to the challenges other women face in divorce as a single parent or as a widow, or the guilt and rejection some women feel when they cannot conceive, how can we not walk away from the passage feeling judged? She is everywhere, but I just can't do it. I took a Facebook survey of my friends and contacts asking, what is your first thought when you hear Proverbs 31 mentioned? Some women replied, a godly example, like my grandmother, or something to strive for. However, the typical response was, too much, a lot to achieve. The overwhelming response was, unobtainable. I try, but fail often. And they felt bad for failing. Once upon a time, I too related to the Proverbs 31 woman in this way, but I've changed my mind. Would it surprise you to know the verses of Proverbs 31:10 through 31 have a military theme and emphasize strength? Throughout the passage, the verses make references to military activities and the spoils of war. Historically, this passage is read as a heroic hymn. In The Song of a Valiant Woman, author Al Walters says this type of literature is found in many cultures and is characterized by the recounting of the mighty deeds of heroes, usually the military exploits of noble warriors. Many examples of heroic hymns can be found throughout the Bible. Proverbs 31 also draws to mind the work of Old Testament priests, a second theme developed through references to the material of the priestly garments and the tabernacle. These themes are very different from the traditional homemaker and housewife I thought she represented. I love the Word of God. The more I study it, the more I realize how much I don't know. But I've studied and learned the Bible through the English language and through the eyes of a modern Western understanding. When we read the Bible today, we don't necessarily know how the original reader understood the lessons taught. We read with 21st century eyes. When translating, we must consider the original audience and the nuances of their language and culture. This is called hermeneutics, and it's crucial for accurate interpretation. Yet most of us don't have a confident understanding of a foreign language like Hebrew or Greek. We aren't familiar with the figurative language, the idioms, wordplay, and puns. We just do not get it like the native speakers do, and, as a result, some of the meaning gets lost in translation. When a friend mentioned Proverbs 31:10 through 31 is an acrostic poem written with the Hebrew alphabet, it stirred my word nerd juices. I had to investigate. Hebrew is a verbal language, which means it is best understood through speaking. It was common in the Jewish culture to memorize the Torah, so much so a rabbi might mention the first few words of a passage, and his disciples would be able to fully recite the rest. When we are aware of this practice and how the people of biblical times did not have the access we do to scrolls or books of the Old Testament, it is easy to see why emphasis was placed on memorization and recitation. Acrostic poems are commonly used in the Old Testament to aid the reader in memorization. Today, we also use them to help us remember information. The Hebrew alphabet letters begin each verse of Proverbs 31:10 through 31 to trigger a reminder for the reader to help with memorization. I became curious how the letters might relate to the verses, and I discovered some amazing lessons we can all apply to our lives as women.